Hi, everyone. This is AJ Schneider from Loyalty 360, welcoming you to another edition of Leaders in Customer Loyalty Industry Voices. In these episodes, we talk to the leading agencies, technology partners, and consultants in customer, channel, and brand loyalty about the technology, trends, and best practices that impact the ability of brands to drive unique experiences, enhance engagement, and most importantly, customer loyalty. Today, we're speaking with Mike Donini, Senior Buyer at Maritz, one of the largest full-service incentives and loyalty partners in North America. Mike, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, AJ. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Well, for those who may not be familiar with how Maritz supports a brand's customer loyalty efforts, why don't you give us a little bit of an overview on what the company does and how it does it with the various industries that it works with?
Sure. So Maritz started in 1894. We're on our fifth generation. It's a privately owned company. It's kind of an interesting story. We started as a watch company, and during the Great Depression, had a hard time selling watches. So we went to businesses and convinced them to give watches away to their employees for good service, and the incentive industry was born. So ultimately, what we do today is we help improve our clients through rewarding their people. So whether they're employee, channel partners, or customers, we work across many industries, B2B and channel. Some of the industries we work with are hospitality, airlines, shipping and delivery, and financial services. We say our purpose is unleashing human potential, and we do that by engaging people and elevating performance.
So, Mike, not only are you guys doing the buying for your clients' incentive programs, but you're actually running the program from beginning to end and doing the fulfillment of the incentives that people are selecting as members of the program. Talk a little bit about that piece of what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. So we have our standard rewards platform site that we create, and our clients plug into that site, and we're constantly merchandising that site monthly. We're creating new assets for the site. We're looking at the metrics to make sure the site is engaging people. We've found, for example, by moving more key items to the homepage, we're getting better engagement. So we create the site, our clients plug into our site, and then we process the orders, fulfill the merchandise for our clients.
So how did you get into the business? How long have you worked for Maritz? And have you
Yeah.
always been kind of, in that customer loyalty arena?
Yeah. So I started my career at May department stores as a buyer and spent 20 years with them in various home store buying jobs and a couple years in men's sportswear. And about 17 years ago, I joined Maritz in the buying team. Currently, I'm over rewards, merchandise rewards, and gift card rewards. And my main function is really to identify trends, see what's happening in the market, vendor relationships, vendor negotiations, assortment planning, marketing, and all things around the items we put in the collection.
Gotcha. And so that's a good jumping in point. You to talk about the collection and assortments of incentives for your clients to offer. How do you start to put that together? To create an assortment of awards. What does that look like? Is it, obviously super customized to the client that you're working with? Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So ultimately, we want to have rewards that a member would want in their program. That's the ultimate goal. We may have all been in programs where we didn't have enough choice or too much choice. And those are all not great experiences. So we believe in purposeful choice. And that's curating a collection of the best brands and the best items from the best brands like Apple, Yeti, HP, Samsung. So we always want to have the latest models from those best brands too. So if you go onto your rewards program, you want a MacBook and you don't have the current model, you're not going to be happy with your program. So making sure we're always current on the models, really important, obviously, in electronics. We want to make sure we have rewards that are attention grabbing rewards. It's not always about redemption, it's about engagement. We recently had a $125,000 Samsung mini LED TV in the collection, right? Didn't redeem, but it got some engagement. People wanted to kind of know what it was. So those are definitely important to have in addition to your table stake items. Giftable items are always great in rewards, especially as we're in the holiday season. So a lot of times we emulate what retail is doing. So we want to have gifts. We want to have holiday prep type items in the collection. Video games are great giftable items. So it might be the PlayStation or Xbox. And then also making sure we have rewards across multiple different price points. So right now, the Apple AirPod Pro 3s are very popular, and not everyone may be able to achieve those with their reward balance. So we want to make sure we have a price point like a JBL headphone that is a great brand, great product, but at a lower price point, so somebody can redeem for that.
Gotcha. And I imagine, when you talk about the sort of the, I'll call it the pricing or the price point, I guess, associated with those, um, that has to be a discussion, I imagine, with the clients as well. To sit down with them and say, look, you're maybe aiming a little too high here for the way that your points program is put together. Do you have some say in that? Do you, I know, I guess when I say some influence, I guess is probably a better word, on your clients to kind of make those adjustments?
Yeah, we do. We want to make sure our collection kind of addresses all of those issues. So it might be a gift card that a $5 gift card, somebody wants to redeem on their program, but they only have $5 in points, right? Well, we have an option for that. Or it might be, we've redeemed for on personal shoppers as much as $100,000 vehicle, right? So we want to make sure we have everything for everyone in the collection, but definitely we want to tailor it for our clients. So we're always looking at what our clients' goals are and making sure that our collection matches what their goals are so that we're putting the right rewards in the collection.
Gotcha. And in terms of the products and incentives themselves, is there a process, a feedback process, or access to data that can help inform your decisions based on what the members, like or don't like about incentives? Like, how do you sort of collect that feedback? Because you're kind of one step removed from the member themselves.
Mhm,
So how do you
mhm.
get information like that?
So yeah, every day the member is voting on what they like by what they're redeeming for, right? Or what they're not redeeming for. So we're constantly analyzing that data to see, are there categories that are doing very well? And then looking at those categories, looking at what's redeeming and seeing if there's opportunity to expand within those items or categories, or what's not redeeming and contract in those categories. So that every day we're looking at that data constantly. That's a good insight. Also, you really have to be in touch with retail and what retail is doing, because a lot of times our members, we emulate retail in a lot of ways. So what our members like at retail, they will typically like in their rewards program. So retail is a great source of information. And then, social media. Social media is huge, right? It used to be, I've been doing this a while. It used to be the Foreman Grill, the as seen on TV stuff would spike, right? And but now it's social media. It's things like TikTok, and the Stanley mug, for example, has been around for over 100 years. But about 5 years ago, it had a social campaign and it blew up. So those are all things that we're definitely looking at and helping to decide the assortment.
So you mentioned some generational issues in there, right? So I have to believe your job has changed quite a bit in terms of how you appeal to different generations. You talk about all the TikTok stuff. I
Right,
mean, the numbers show overall, those numbers skew much younger than the gold watch did that we mentioned earlier, I think, right?
right, right.
So, talk a little bit about that and maybe what's changed in terms of the types of products and incentives that people are interested in based on their age.
Yeah, so one of the big changes within rewards are influencer type rewards. So you have macro influencers, which are the celebrities that we all know, but micro influencers are all over the place. Everyone's creating their own content, so we have to make sure we have rewards to support those micro influencers. Things like tripods and lighting and AI that's built into all these devices to help people. You could have your own personal cameraman now on a tripod, right? Through AI. So just making sure that we're constantly looking at those trends, because that is a trend, obviously, being aware of the market and making sure we have product to support that. Originally, influencer type items were actually brought in for business clients, right, to create content. And we found that all of our clients loved it. So we expanded that category for everybody.
Interesting. So, and not to continue my joke, but is the gold watch still a thing? I mean, is that,
Yeah, we
that
still have
level?
gold watches. Watches actually do still redeem. They're collector's items for a lot of people. They buy, really nice Breitling watches, for example, redeem a lot in our program. They love it's for collectors and people who like, watches. So
Gotcha. Gotcha.
yeah.
You mentioned specifically electronics being a very popular item category. That's a whole sort of, thing of its own. You mentioned that fancy TV you were talking about a little bit ago that didn't actually redeem, but created some engagement. Um, do you go specifically to some of the electronic shows? Where do you learn about? Because obviously you have to be pretty intimately familiar with them to be able to buy those, for
Yep.
various memberships. Where do you learn about that?
Yeah, so we do attend all of the major industry shows, and the CES Consumer Electronics Show is one of the largest. Matter of fact, it's coming up in January in Las Vegas, and we do attend that. There's really been probably three big trends that we've seen over the last couple of years at CES. One is robotics, one is wearable tech, and the other is AI integration into pretty much everything nowadays. Within wearables, for example, we may all be familiar with the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, right? You can capture videos and photos, you can listen to your music, and it really helps you connect with the world around you. Seeing more of those wearable type items, robotics. So Samsung has been showing for several years what they call the Bali. It's the round ball robot that follows you around the house. It's not yet launched in the consumer market. They said they were going to launch it this year, but it hasn't been released yet. But we're seeing more and more products like this. And this is an item that it's really cool. It'll follow you around the house. It can be your personal assistant. It can tell you what's on your calendar for the day, your to-do list. It could be your fitness coach and project onto any wall. Videos, you can take calls through it. It could be a security device. So if you're away from home and a window breaks, it can go to that window and project what's going on to you. We just added a product that is available in the market called the PetBot. And that's basically a robotic dog, but it also can be a security device, right? Same way as the Samsung Bali. So robotics are definitely becoming more and more available in the consumer arena. And then lastly, AI. Everyone knows about AI, and AI has pretty much exploded into everything. So we've seen things like microwaves where you could put your food in it and it determines what the food is and cooks your food appropriately, right? There's the tripod I mentioned that is like your personal cameraman. There's washers and dryers where it could see what type of clothes you're putting in, dispense the right amount of laundry detergent, the right temperature, and set the right drying time, all based on what it identifies. We just added Birdify bird feeders, and this can identify birds as they come onto the bird feeder and send it to your phone like it's breaking news. Uh,
It's
I
incredible.
mentioned, yeah, it really is. The Meta smart glasses, they're coming with a heads up display in the lens, so it's like wearing a computer now on your face. It's amazing. Um, and then even Kohler, like Kohler, you're probably familiar with them. They do toilet
Mhm.
bowls, and so they even have a toilet cam, so it can determine basically your gut health, right? So, that's one of those right. And so it's one of those buzz items that gets people interested, laugh, and click on it. So it's one of those engagement items. So
So you bring up an interesting point about the engagement versus the actual redemption. Do companies work with you and build strategies specifically around that, kind of knowing that, yeah, the toilet bowl's, going to attract a lot of interest, but not too many people are probably gonna redeem for that.
We work with our clients on that. So we're bringing them the ideas, and then they're kind of determining, in a lot of cases, what they would want to use in communication to their members.
Yeah. Okay.
But we do have a standard platform where we do feature different items on our homepage.
Gotcha. And I think I already know the answer to this based on all of that cool stuff that you just mentioned. But when you're advising clients to say, hey, look, you need to have a diverse array of potential incentives for people to redeem for, other than just if you work for, I'm making this up, a set of convenience stores, other than just a discount at the convenience store that you work at, as part of your incentive, or you get that extra mug because that's what your company makes, is mugs. Um, it seems obvious that you would want your members to have that choice. But is
Yeah.
that a conversation that you have to kind of talk your clients out of, like, hey, you need to go beyond the mugs that you guys already make?
Yeah, absolutely. We know that choice increases engagement and it just makes your program more effective. We know that, one thing we like to talk about is the halo effect of merchandise. So let's say you're going on vacation to Park City and you rent an e-bike, and that's a very enjoyable experience for you. You come home, you see there's e-bikes in your rewards programs, you kind of dream about getting one. So that engages you and you start earning rewards, and then you redeem for that e-bike. And now you've got that emotional connection with the rewards. So it connects you to the program and it connects you to a positive experience. And that's valuable, much more valuable than some other things. But ultimately, sometimes our clients don't want to use in-kind rewards because, let's say, an airline right now, with the cutback in flights, for example, they can sell every single seat that's available. So they don't want people using points for seats. They'd rather sell the seats. So having those choices of something other than in-kind merchandise becomes very valuable for our clients.
No, it makes perfect sense. So let me switch gears a little bit to the actual, products and availability for a second. I have to ask, based on everything going on, you mentioned, a real world example of what's going on now with airlines. Hopefully that will change soon.
Yeah.
Um, but the tariff situation as well. We hear all the time that having those tariffs in place can make some of the goods that are made overseas and in other countries more difficult to get, or certainly that the cost might go up. Has that had a material effect on your business and the programs that your clients are running?
Yeah, and again, this is a great example of where choice is important because we have seen about 50% of our items affected by tariffs. But what that means is 50% has not been affected too. But ultimately, we really haven't seen a shift in redemption based on tariffs. So people still are redeeming for what they want. Um, Inflation in some ways helps rewards programs. I know that doesn't sound like it would occur, but what happens in a lot of times when inflation is in effect, the consumer, is very careful with their dollar, and they will go to their rewards program and use points to redeem for things like gifts or things they need as opposed to spending their own money. So in a lot of cases, inflation does help an incentive program. And then there's gift cards. Gift cards are $100 gift cards, always $100 gift card, no matter how much inflation or tariffs there are.
Right. Yeah. No, it makes good sense. Also a good segue. This is a more of a fun question, I guess, but obviously the holiday season is upon us, and in that same regard, whether people are using their points maybe to redeem for a gift that they're going to give to a family member, or whatever the case might be. What is the going, hot things for this holiday season, and what are the strategies that you're recommending to clients to try and play off that and generate as much engagement and interest in their programs as possible?
Yeah, and definitely, as early as you can plant that seed, the better. We've seen retail do this, right? So you start seeing holiday advertising now in October. And that's also important within rewards programs that you're letting people know, hey, we're here. You can come on and you can redeem your points for the holidays. So communicating early, if possible, is key. Also, on your site itself, it's important to when the member goes into the site, it's really important that you're featuring those top items, at the top of your page. You're not making them dig to find it, So again, just featuring the right items on your page. We know that holiday promotions increase traffic. However, I would caution against that if you're not going to communicate it. So if you're not going to communicate to your members that you have a promotion, you're probably just going to shift redemption within your rewards platform. But if you communicate it, you're going to increase redemption. So it's crucial if you do run a promotion that you're communicating it so people are going into the site.
Gotcha. So you partially got into this a little bit already, and I think the most basic um, indicator that a program is working is the redemption rates and so on. I'm sure, and as you've mentioned, that gives you insight into what items are important to people, which ones maybe are not. But overall, when you work with your clients and maybe even internally at your own company, what are the KPIs that you look at and sort of keep track of that indicate to you, hey, these are the programs that are working and maybe not, but also maybe some that you think people should look at that maybe they're not.
Yeah, so the KPIs that are important. Obviously, other than the reports and everything we look at, the thing that really sets a program apart is customer service. So making sure that our customer care team is taking care of the member. If a member has been saving up reward points for years and they go to redeem and that experience is not great and you don't have someone there to help them, that's really going to diminish that rewards program. So we have a great customer care team, and we measure their engagement with all of our members. As a matter of fact, our personal shopper, our travel experience team, and our customer care team are all internal Maritz employees. So they're here, they work here, they're helping all our members through every channel they may be in. So that's
Gotcha.
that's definitely important.
Mike, so all this fantastic information, what is next for Merits and what can we look forward to in 2026?
Yeah, so one trend we've seen is our members like to shop local. We added a gift card product that allows them to shop local for either restaurants, spas, or salons. And we found that this has done very well in our test, and we're expanding that across all clients now. So that's something exciting. And we ultimately we live and breathe rewards. So it's what we do. And so just stay tuned for further developments.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So, Mike, we like to do something called quick fire questions. And, you know, generally speaking, they're more fun questions designed just to kind of get in your head a little bit and see what makes you tick. And so the idea is I'm gonna fire a question at you, and then in one or two words or a short phrase, give us the first answer that comes to your mind. Does that sound good?
Sure.
All right, here we go. If you had a day off or a week off from work, what are you doing?
Going to the beach if I can.
Good answer. Good answer. If you could live in any city or country, where would you live?
Any warm climate.
All right. I guess that goes with your beach answer.
Right.
If you could go back to school, what would you study?
Artificial intelligence.
Also very important. Yes. And how about we'll end on this one. What motivates you when you're tackling challenges at Merits?
Oh, wow. I would say there's a solution to every problem.
Great, great advice. That's awesome. Mike, thanks for taking the time to speak with us today on our Leaders in Customer Loyalty Industry Voices podcast. It was great getting your perspective on customer loyalty, and we look forward to learning more from you and the team at Maritz.
Awesome. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in to our Leaders in Customer Loyalty podcast series. If you haven't already, please subscribe and follow Loyalty 360 on YouTube and LinkedIn. The links are provided below. Please join us every Tuesday for another edition of our Industry Voices podcast. Thanks for coming.